just saw that you were gonna. Does it look like it's pulling up?
Can't see the little light from here.
Oh, there we go. There it is. Okay, so it's just signed into.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna put in a thumb drive and
Okay,
pick
okay,
it up.
okay. Uh-huh.
Good evening. I'd like to call the regularly scheduled board meeting of the Waterloo Schools Board of Directors to order and ask that you join me in a moment of silence. Thank you, and will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on our agenda is the mission statement, and actually I'm just going to read it this evening. The mission is that the Waterloo Schools community commits to a comprehensive system of education and support to assure that each and every student will graduate prepared for college, career, and citizenship as evidenced by continuing education, pursuing a career path, and contributing to a community. The first item on our agenda this evening then is the public hearing for the Instructional Support Program. This is on page A or 1. And there, I was going to say, and I'm just going to declare the hearing open and ask if there's anyone here this evening who wishes to address the board on the instructional support levy piece. And we will be talking more about this later on in our agenda, but Michael Coughlin, do you have anything to add at this point during the hearing? Okay, all right. Is there anyone here? All right, then seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Thank you, Jesse. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, India. Our hearing is closed. The next item on the agenda then is a board celebration. Very excited to have this today. This is item B on page 4. This is Irving Elementary has been named the healthiest school in Iowa. And I am going to, yay! I know we've got some staff here, and I'm going to invite Tara Thomas up to give us a little bit more information on this.
Thank you, Shanley. It's so exciting that recently Irving was named the healthiest school in our state, and it was a really tough competition with other deserving districts across the state, but we came out on top, and it's thanks to the leadership of Zach Zimmerman and Corey Ahrensdorf. His PE program and their whole wellness approach at Irving has been amazing, and it led to this acknowledgement, so I'd like to invite them up to tell us about it.
Don't be shy. Come on. This is exciting. Nice.
This was one of the awards we got, along with $5,000.
Will you guys make sure your mic is on?
Is it?
It push the little button that says push, and when it goes green.
No, are we good now?
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so we went down there and we got this award along with $5,000. So I'll let Corey kind of talk about how we got to this point. So
Zach, will you pass that around so we can see it?
Yeah.
I promise we'll give it back.
Steph, do you want to grab it?
We'll give it
It's
back,
actually
I
a really
promise.
cool award. There's an artist in Des Moines that does floating glass, and so it's actually floating glass specifically created for the award ceremony. and the
Oh,
award giving
cool.
style, so I thought that
That's
was
why I thought, I want to see this.
kind of a different. It's not just a little tiny bowl to put cereal in, so don't put your cereal in there. So, basically what I had done was told them all the different initiatives, all the different programs that we're doing at Irving Elementary. It was a pretty daunting application process of what they want us to know that we're doing. And what I did is I just basically told them the exciting programs that we have at Irving Elementary. And a lot of those are just having to do with not just physical exercise, but also nutrition, about mental wellness, all the different areas that we really try to touch on. And we want to show that we are doing something different than most schools are. We want to be that shining light that says, hey, we want to show you what we can do here at Irving Elementary and Waterloo Schools, but we want everybody else to take what we're doing and implement it. So it's not just something we want to keep for ourselves. We want to see what we can do outside of that. And what some of the things that we're doing is we have an exercise club, a walking running club that we have at Irving Elementary that's before school even starts. So it's about 20 minutes before classes start, and it's to get the kids in the gym or outside exercising, doing that not just to get them exercise, but to get their brain going. So we know studies say that if you get 15, 20 minutes of exercise, that triples the size of your brain activity. We're doing Tai Chi in the classroom. So we got teachers that are doing mindfulness. So they're doing Tai Chi with their kids. We got exercise clubs in the classroom. Ms. Moeller's got an amazing program that she does with the kids in Leader in Me and in their classroom as well. And all the classroom teachers are phenomenal when it comes to trying to do what's best for our kids. And learning, I truly believe, starts with somebody who feels good about themselves. You can't learn unless you feel good about yourself, both mentally and physically. And we feel like that's kind of where it starts at. So, and then we're doing so many other programs. I mean, I could stand up here forever and talk about it, but the heart rate monitors in PE are a new one. That's something that I started this year. It has opened not just my kids' eyes, but my eyes to how much learning you can do through physical activity and through trying to change your program into something different, because there was no other elementary schools that had that. And I was trying to see what we could do to get the kids more active while in doing physical activity during PE, and it turned into so much more than that. It went from, I'm teaching you guys about being physically active. Let's try to exercise our bodies a little bit more. If you're waiting in line, see if you can move, do some dance moves. And they did. It was awesome. They would literally be standing in line when they're waiting for an activity. They're jogging in place. They're checking their heart rate monitor. They're getting excited about it. But the cool thing is they're learning about their bodies. It's not just to get them physically active. It's learning how to take care of their bodies, not just while they're in PE, but the rest of their entire life. Mm-hmm. So we really want to show them that it's not just one part of their life that they need to do this, like during PE or during school time. It is something that is their entire life that we want them to know that they can do, and they will do if they put their mind to it. So.
I just had a question as far as you guys have a very diverse population at Irving. So how do you have translators, or how do you get this to all the students?
Great question. One of the best things about being a PE teacher is you teach by movement. So literally, like, and we have Embark that we've now embraced that, you know, kind of helps us with that. And we have translators that help us out with, you know, some of those pieces that we can't interact or talk with the students. But one of the best parts of a physical movement or doing something with like heart rate monitors, we can show them by doing
you
it,
can mirror.
not just by communicating it with physical words or verbal words, by physically moving and showing them how to do it. And to be honest, it's pretty amazing at Irving Elementary. We have students that will literally be translators for other students. You know, they can't speak a lick of English, and they're, while I'm teaching, are talking. I'm blown away, I'll be honest. I'm like, how can you concentrate? Because I can barely teach and not, like, you know, do something without having to do two things at once. And these kids are literally learning what I'm teaching them and then teaching another student at the same time. So that's some of the ways that we kind of help out.
And then second question, do you track up to the middle school? When, you know, like your fifth graders go up to the middle school, like how the kids are doing activity-wise as they leave the confinements of Irving?
Right now, we are not like tracking to see how they move on. That's a great question, because this is something that I want all areas of, you know, schools to do it, not just elementary, not middle, not high, but see how we can transport what we're doing here and see it progressing to middle school and to high school, and how we can track that data. So it's a great question. That'd be something that I would love to look into and see if we can possibly start doing. So.
I would say Irving's done a good job over the years, though, reaching out to different community organizations too when they had kids that they wanted to get into activities. I mean, Principal Smith did for you, and then, you know, Zimmerman, you guys have sent kids my way in different groups. So we, you know, you guys have actually sought out other activities even beyond the bounds of Irving too. So you guys are doing a great job there.
Yeah, and
trying
we're
to find
actually
places for these kids to activities and stuff. So
I went to a PTO meeting at Central, and we're talking about doing a joint venture with them and doing a 5K, and that's something that's kind of like in the works. We'll see what happens, but it was really cool to go to their PTO meeting because I got to discuss with them some of the things that we do to Irving and saying, how can we transport this to middle school and track that? Or, you know, like, can we bring an exercise club here? How can, you know, I help you get these kids interested in the things that we're doing and keep it going as they progress through school, so.
Right, and just sixth grade predominantly, because seventh and eighth, they can participate in sports, but sixth, they
Right.
don't have anything.
Right.
And they actually had just started a few years ago, like we piloted it at Irving, the extramural sports program.
Yes.
So sixth grade started that, I think last year, I believe, quote me if I'm wrong, but I believe that they just got into that too, and they're starting to be able to experience all these different sports that they couldn't before. So that's kind of nice that they get opportunity, don't have to wait till seventh grade, so.
So what's next with the big check? Where do you go from here?
Big check. Yes, that's a great question. I have been kind of thinking of something that, you know, would work for all of Irving Elementary. I don't want something saying, hey, let's go out and blow it all in some big celebration and say, hey, we did a great job or whatever. I want something, or, you know, we want something sustainable. We want something that's going to last forever. You know, with any program that we do at Irving Elementary, we want it to go for a long period of time. And one of the things I actually just sent out recently was, speaking of the heart rate monitors in the PE, I was thinking that classroom teachers could use that heart rate monitor, because there's so, like I said, there's so much learning you can do with those. And it's not just how physical can you be. You can track and say, like, what's your max heart rate? How do you calculate that out with math? You know, it calculates calories burned, how many minutes you're active. You can say, you know, from day 1 to day 2, how many minutes were we active from day 1 to day 2? Do multiplication, do division. You know, you can do literacy, you can do science. There's no limit on what you can do with these. So one of the things I put out was a feeler to teachers to ask them, thinking, what would you guys think if we did heart rate monitors throughout the school, like a class set that would be checked out kind of like a library book type of thing, and they can have it in the classroom to help increase their learning for the different core subjects that we do.
Nice. Thank you.
You mentioned partnering with Central. Have you talked to any other elementary schools about maybe using this model?
I'm sorry, for the 5K that we had talked about?
No.
Or
The whole program, not the 5K. You mentioned
like just our
partnering with
overall
Central,
wellness
but
program?
in the other elementary schools?
Yes, absolutely. A lot of times with the PE program, us elementary PE teachers get together a lot, and I've mentioned to them the things that we do here at Irving, and encourage them to start doing some of those clubs or some of those different types of programs that you can do. And the fantastic thing is Orange, I believe Becker possibly, and one of the school has started walking running clubs in the morning. You know, has done kind of followed in our footsteps, which is fantastic. It's exactly what we want. We want to inspire other schools to do what
I think it's
we
a
do.
good setup for the mayor's fun run. Having that, getting the kids active for that.
Right, and I'm actually in the process of setting up a UNI Kids Hy-Vee Kids Fit. It's going to be at the UNI Dome, and I've met with Daryl Hanna and talked to all the elementary PE teachers, and we're in the process of setting that up where all of our 5th grade students would get to go to the UNI Dome and do all these amazing like workout sessions. There's nutrition lessons in it. It's so exciting that you can make something that could be small this huge, grand, fun, exciting program that we can all do. So once again, connecting through all elementaries, not just one.
So your before school exercise club, do the students and staff when they log in, is that electronically or manually?
Yeah, great question. When I first started it, it was just kind of a fun thing that we did. We had a little punch card, and we punched kids' cards that were doing it, or staff. We invited staff, parents, anybody who'd want to come. I last year found a program out in California that literally you create scan cards for every person that wants to participate. It's awesome. So it's a lot of work to kind of set up, but you print out all the cards, super cheap. It was like $170 per year to run the program. It's just you have to put the legwork in. So you got to create all the ID badges, lanyards, like set it all up. But long story short, it basically tracks anybody's data that shows up. And it also can even email parents and give them their information. So like say if their kid got to school that morning, well, hey, bing, they'll get an email saying they showed up at the walking running club. It'll track their calories they burn, how many days they've come, how many laps they've walked, how many miles they completed. And it's just a iPad I use, and then they got a little scan card that I created for them, and they go around the gym, and they'll do different exercises in the exercise club, so different kind of fun movements that I create each week. And then outside, it's a walking running club where they get to jog around a certain area that I designed and measure out. But it tracks all that data for them. So instead of just doing a punch card, it's a lot more evidence-based.
So they have a personal monitor?
What's that?
They wear a personal monitor?
Kind of, yeah. Basically, I bought lanyards. So they got a lanyard, a little plastic holder, and a piece of paper. I print out 6 kids on one sheet of paper, and it prints out a little barcode.
But how does that track calories?
So like it takes like basically the kid's age, and it takes how many laps they're completing and how many miles, and calculates it into the calories they're burning off by their age. It's not as specific as my heart rate monitors. My heart rate monitors I do height, weight, age, and it gives a lot more detailed. It just kind of gives a general idea of what you're burning off for calories.
But could you incorporate the heart rate monitors into that system?
For the walking running club or exercise club,
Yeah.
It would be fantastic if we do, but literally it's such a successful program. We had last year 413 kids participate out of our 470 that we had. So, I mean, I would love to absolutely put the heart rate monitors in. We average probably at the exercise club anywhere from 50 to 150 kids a morning. And then the exercise club is, probably about 40 to 80 kids every morning that show up before school even starts. So, but I mean, if you money-wise, if money was no limit, yeah, heck yeah, I would love heart rate monitors for everybody.
Be nice, Lyle. I don't.
So let me just say, I'm sorry, Lyle. I want to say, in addition to the many great things that I think a public education provides, so for example, the school lunches, a lot of people don't think about public education. They think about it in terms of taxes or different things like that, but they don't really look at the whole community benefit of it. And I just want to say thank you, because what you've done, and this award was well deserved, is because what you've done is you found an innovative and creative way to make our students eat broccoli and vegetables without them knowing it. And in Waterloo, we're an urban center, and there are so many environmental and ecological issues that cause our kids to be unhealthy. And I love the idea of doing the Zen types of things that you're doing, the mindfulness training, which I love, Jane, and the yoga and all those things, because that's one of the ways that we find gaps in services for our students who are struggling emotionally and mentally and relationally. So in addition to the physical education piece to it, and in addition to the nutritional and the biological piece to it, I just want to say thank you, because it's also an environmental and ecological piece to it that is invisible, that people don't see. And that whole broken windows theory, you know, about some of our kids walking past buildings or watching TV or looking at social media things that are affecting them from an ecological or an environmental place. The tools that you are giving them through your activities is going to help them in a way that they're not even realize how to process those things and how to reach in their invisible knapsack of ways to deal with stress. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much. I love that you said that. I appreciate, you know, every word that you said. And I love because I relate right to it, because our kids, you know, have a certain thing that they see every day for nutrition wise. And when we at Irving, what we want to do is we want to provide a positive environment, which is part of our goals are no unhealthy snacks that come into school. And we have been amazed with the parents' willingness to do it. Like, to be honest, my kids' school they go to, they're bringing in cupcakes and candy for birthday treats, and it's the standard. It's kind of what everybody expects. And our parents, you know, we would be hopeful that they're very open and willing to it, you know, but I was hesitant thinking like, you can't bring in cupcakes, somebody's going to throw something at me. So, but they were so welcoming to what we were doing and understanding why we were doing it, that they're being creative. They're bringing in like fruit little bananas with like arms coming out of it, you know, for their kids' birthdays. Like, they were getting creative, and they were like just being amazing community members and people part of our family, because they're our family.
Yeah.
And it was amazing on how they embrace it just as much as we do with the snacks that we bring in. You know, we want to make sure that we provide that positive environment for them as well. So it's not just for our kids, our students, it's for our families as well. So thank you.
And I just was wondering, for staff, do you have any like stand-up desks in the classroom, or the balls that the kids sit on, or those
We
types
have,
of things?
yep, exactly. We have a classroom teacher that has flexible seating that went out and got a grant, I believe, and it's amazing. Like, the kids got exercise balls that they sit on. They got the flex seating where they're sitting on the ground, they're sitting up, they're standing up, and that's what we kind of want to keep pushing towards and you know, cultivate that through the rest of the classrooms if we can, because that's just that movement. That's when you sit for so many minutes, your brain just starts to shut down. There's no brain activity. So yeah, we definitely want to continue on that.
Well, keep up the good work. I drive by there every day, and I see healthiest school in Iowa every time I go by
Awesome.
there.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I get a little tear every time I drive by.
Very well deserved.
You've
We
covered
appreciate- I
everything so
appreciate
well,
your-
so I think I'm going to try to stump you. I was going to ask.
Man,
the-
I knew it. There was going to be a hard one sooner or later.
I was going to ask the gentleman behind you, but can you pass the new Army physical fitness test, do you think?
I don't know. That's a great question. I would actually love to do it. I think I'll take that challenge. I like those kind of things, so let's bring it on.
Yeah, I bet so too.
Be nice to me, by the way.
It is so awesome. Well, I do want to say, though, we obviously appreciate everything that you've done, but I want to get this motion on the table so we can accept these dollars that you so what am I trying to say, that you've so generously won and that you can accept. So the recommended motion is that the Board of Education accepts and acknowledges with gratitude the $5,000 donation to Irving Elementary presented by the Healthiest State Initiative. Thank you, Astor. And a second?
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
But,
Chair
and I
votes
can
aye.
tell with just your genre and how you
Passion.
act that.
You're awesome.
Passion. Great
Sorry, I get a little
Passion,
excited
that's
sometimes.
the word.
Yeah, that's
Great.
great. So,
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
very
all right,
much.
anything else? Great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let us know what you do with the 5,000 when you decide. Yeah, the box is right here for don't forget that. Awesome. All right, the next item on our agenda then is information from individuals and delegations. And because we have a fairly thin crowd out there tonight, I'm going to ask if there's anyone here this evening who wishes to address the board before I read my little spiel. All right, then seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which this evening consists of 9 items. The minutes of the February 25th, 2019 regular board meeting, item C. Personnel appointments and adjustments, item D. Bills due and payable and bills paid between board meetings, item E. a donation from Project Lead the Way Incorporated in partnership with John Deere, a donation from R.J. McElroy Trust, a donation from the Blackhawk County Gaming Association, item H, the West High School JROTC field trip to Dayton, Ohio, item I, the West High School BPA trip to Anaheim, California, item J, set the date of the public hearing for the Hoover HVAC project, item K. Are there any items that board members wish to have removed?
I guess if there's an easier way to do it, but the donations, I just like to
Let's pull them.
acknowledge those
Yep.
donations
Yep.
because that's huge. It's the partnership
Absolutely.
that makes it work. So
So F and G.
G and H, and or F too with John Deere.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep, F, G, and H. Okay,
I and J. I and J.
And I and J. All right.
and
All right.
item I, please. Sorry.
Yep, we got I and we got J.
like to hear that.
All right, so all those in favor then, I'd like to put items C, D, E, and K on the table, and can I get a motion to do so?
So move.
Thank you, Sue, and a
Second.
second, Jesse. So all those in favor of approving items C, D, E, and K, please signify by saying aye.
I.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Those 4 items pass. So that takes us then to item F, and that recommended motion is that the Board of Education accepts with gratitude the 4 $10,000 grants from Project Lead the Way Incorporated in partnership with John Deere to support PLTW, which is Project Lead the Way, course expansion at Bunger Middle School, Carver Academy, Central Middle School, and Hoover Middle School for the 2019-2020 school year.
So move.
Thank you, Sue. And a second?
Second.
And discussion.
I guess could you just sort of explain? Yep. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Sorry.
I always wonder if whether I should actually come to these and maybe I won't
Right.
have to talk.
I couldn't even see you back there, Anjali, so then I was
hide
like,
behind
oh,
the
wait, she is
computer.
back there.
There's a
behind the-
reason I sit in that chair. It's back behind the computer.
behind the monitor.
The green light's already on, so is it okay?
You're set.
Okay. These were just Dr. Lindemann and myself and Jeff Frost were approached and met with Patrick Barnes at the STEM Fest in November about these grants that were available through Project Lead the Way in partnership with John Deere. I had a week to write the grants for each middle school, so I really quick got our information in and sent through, and they just sent us notification a week or so ago that we were awarded the grants. Originally, I thought they were only $2,500 per school. So when we got the email that they were $10,000 per school, we were pretty excited. So each middle school next year will get $10,000 to just help support the expansion of the programming. Materials, consumables can be fairly cost heavy with some of these Project Lead the Way programs. So we'll continue to look for grants that are available every year to help cover some of those costs.
So you're currently doing this now.
Right. So we have the Schoitz grant money that was awarded last year to help kind of launch the middle school CTE programming. So for 6th grade, we have Project Lead the Way Medical Detectives. That was a soft launch this year. We only offer it right now at Hoover Middle School and at Central due to staffing. You have to be certified to teach the course. So Carver and Bunger next year will have those courses available. We have a teacher at Carver that is already signed up to attend the training, and at Bunger, we will have a teacher taking the training this summer to offer those. And then in 8th grade, we offer the automation and robotics for all students, and that is already offered at all 4 middle schools. It'll probably expand over. We'll have multiple teachers teaching it, so we'll need to get more materials for that building.
So how many kids participate on average at each school?
All 6th graders and all 8th graders.
Okay.
I don't know the numbers for each building on the top of my head.
So this money pays for the curriculum, like medical detectives?
It could. It could. It can be used to pay for teacher training. It can be used for classroom supplies. It can be used for the consumable kits. It depends on what we want to use it for. The medical detectives refill kits are $1,600, I think, a piece, and that's per quarter.
So at Hoover alone, it was $9,600 for the consumable kits to refill. So next year, that would take pretty much the whole 10,000 just for Hoover, but the other middle schools would be able to probably use it for teacher training at Carver and at Bunger and other materials they need for the classroom.
And what's in these kits?
Sheep's brains are in the medical detectives. I know that's a big piece. The kids get to dissect sheep's brains, some just normal, and then some are diagnosed with cancer, and they have to identify the cancer, and they learn the different parts of the brain. So that's kind of the big bulk piece in that. The whole curriculum is really them diagnosing medical symptoms, learning to analyze like symptoms and problem solve. Automation and robotics is the VEX kits, so it's very similar to what they use in the first LEGO Leagues when they're building their robotics. So it kind of feeders into those programs in the middle school too, helps support students attending and joining those clubs.
But those tend to be more reusable.
Yes. The medical detectives is the one that has a lot of consumables.
And I would just remind you too that when we went after the Schoitz grant, which we were so grateful to get, all of the exploratories at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade have been back mapped to align to the Career Center. So everything that we have at the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade leads somewhere. So we didn't want kids to get to 9th grade and we say, okay, now here's all the options, and they say, I don't know, I've never tried any of this. And so the medical detectives was launched to lead somewhere. So they may be interested in the nursing program, but they also may be interested in one of our future programs like biomedicine or something like that. So the technology one, that the teachers are trained to talk about what is coming up. So the kids who are really finding a passion for what's happening at the middle school, and we haven't gotten it completely right. We're one semester in, but though making sure that the teachers who are teaching it at the middle school are very aware of what exists at the high school, so that they can constantly keep talking about that. I happen to have a 6th grader who went through the first semester and got medical detectives the first quarter and had the technology one the second quarter. So it was extra special for me as a mom to watch them come home. I'm going to tell you, the sheep's brain piece was a conversation for probably a week, and usually right at supper time is when we chose to talk about it. So, so it was a very, very big deal. And coming home and learning to diagnose, and what does that mean? Well, what kind of things would you need to know? So it was a big deal. And I know in the technology one, they actually did a lot of coding. I actually learned more from that, or as much as what my son did. So it was really neat, and we're just barely getting into it. And I think those will even get better as we go. So I'm really excited for those to be launched at all 4 middle schools.
I want to also piggyback on Dr. Linderman. As a parent of a 6th grader, and going in the first day in August and not knowing what to expect, and they were hoping for home ec to cook, but to get the medical detective, and coming out of that exploratory at the end was amazing. The conversations at the table, it was very empowering just to see her, just to have the experience of the dissecting and coding and all of that. So I will totally agree that it's a great experience to go through this. So kudos for you to write this grant and to know that this can be something a lot in the future. So
I just want to underscore this. A lot of times colleges, I don't know if they complain, but they have a lot to say about how K-12 is not preparing our students. This is a source of pride for Waterloo Community Schools. So I would like to personally invite you to Hawkeye Community College's Diversity in STEM Conference on March 29th. We'll have employers and educators from around the state. It would be really great if they could hear and know about a lot of the awesome things that Waterloo Community School District is doing in terms of STEM to prepare our students.
I am actually already registered to attend that, along with the career coordinators in the high schools. So
Thank you
we
very
will all
much.
be there.
Wonderful.
And just a question, why was 6th and 8th chosen?
So these are replacing existing courses that were there, and middle school was doing kind of some different things. So when they were doing the planning, which was Angela Hewitt and Jeff last year, kind of going through picking out what would be good feeders into the Career Center,
these were some courses that Project Lead the Way offered. Automation and robotics was already offered in the middle school, so medical detectives was the new one that they brought in. We also do computer science at 7th grade, which is code.org, and then they do applied computer in 6th grade. And then we are currently working on 2 new courses for 7th and 8th grade that will transition in next year. So 7th grade will have an FCS Human Services course that'll talk about early childhood and education, culinary and hospitality, and then I'm blanking on the third part
I
to
know,
that.
and I was too, and I was waiting.
I'm
Yeah, I
blanking
can't
on the
think of
third
what
one
the
of that
other-
right now. And then the 8th grade one will be businesses, careers, and pathways into the Career Center specifically. So they'll partner more with the Career Center on the courses offered. And we actually applied for Scale Up for 8th grade to do STEM Innovator with that course. So fingers crossed that that comes through.
So one semester at the 6th grade is aligned to Career Center, one semester at the 7th grade is aligned, and one semester at the 8th grade. Then the opposite semester is things that are required as part of Chapter 12. So there are certain things they have to do, so we will keep those. But then the other part that we had discretion over is what we changed to be aligned to the Career Center, if that makes sense. So they will get it in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, but we haven't launched the 7th grade. We actually weren't going to launch anything until the fall of 19, but we were ready to go at a couple schools where we had teachers and we had materials, and so we went with it. And that's been kind of a blessing because we got to try out a few things and work out a few kinks before we do the full launch in the fall. So, and kudos to you. I know that you have really worked hard to make sure that we got this going and to find money to subsidize. So it's great. So great job.
We were excited.
And I think it goes without saying that we need to thank John Deere again as well, because as you said, you thought maybe it was just 2,500 per class or per school, and it ended up being 10,000 for each of the buildings, which is really great.
Yeah.
So,
True supporters.
yep, they're wonderful. So, all right, anything further? Thank you, Angelique.
Thanks.
Yep. All right, then all those in favor of approving the donation for Project Lead the Way in partnership with John Deere, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. The next item on our agenda is item G. This is a donation from the R.J. McElroy Trust, and the recommended motion is the Board of Education accepts and acknowledges with gratitude the donation of $20,000 from R.J. McElroy Trust for emergency fund purposes at Lowell Elementary School.
So moved.
Thanks.
Second.
You want a second?
Second.
Thanks, India. And I will be abstaining from this vote because of my employment with the trust, just FYI. So go ahead
And
with
Jane, I
discussion.
just was wondering, as far as, the community just rallied around so much,
Yeah.
and just wanted to thank the trust again for doing that, and also if there's specific uses for the dollars or that type of thing. Thank
Right.
you.
When I talked with the, excuse me, the director of the trust, the money really was donated to help with supplies, both teaching and learning supplies. So for supplies for students, supplies for the teachers, supplies for anything that there were certain things that we were not able to move. And so we had some choices, should we wait and see if we can salvage some things in August, or those are things that we're looking at right now. They're just a variety of things, but they're all really in the category of student supplies or teacher supplies.
So just wanted to thank the trust, that's all I had.
Awesome. Anything further? All right, then all those in favor of approving item G, the donation from R.J. McElroy Trust, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And one abstention. Motion carried. That takes us then to item H, which is the donation from the Black Hawk County Gaming Association. And that recommended motion is the Board of Education accepts and acknowledges with gratitude the donation of $15,000 from Black Hawk County Gaming Association for emergency needs at Lowell Elementary School.
So moved. Second.
Thanks, you two. And discussion?
Just again, I guess, Jane, if this had been earmarked, and to publicly thank the Black Hawk Gaming Association, because it's just was amazing for me to see all the donations and see all the different people groups that step forward with Lowell, and I just hope those kids realize how much this entire community wants them to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. This has been, and when I say highlight of my career, it's not because you would ever wish this on anyone, but I would tell you that it's probably one of the more memorable things that has happened in my 30 years in education. The community coming together, whether it was a larger donation from, RJ McElroy Trust or from Black Hawk Gaming or the United Way, or, a ladies' church group, sent us a check for $500. It has been heartwarming, to say the least, and we're so grateful for the support. The kids feel it. If you talk to them about it, they will tell you that they were able to get things in their classrooms that they didn't think they were going to get. There are a few things that are sitting, back at Lowell that, we'll try to salvage what we can depending on, but it was just, it's really been amazing. And we're grateful, very grateful.
Just to add real quick, I looked up the spreadsheet for the thank yous, and we have nearly 100 different organizations, people, community members that have donated to this. So
Yeah, it's huge.
And it was cool to see all the outlying schools and the kids donated their money to come to Lowell. And it just like you said, it's heartwarming, but it kind of put my faith back in humanity a little bit that, a tragedy like this, that, these kids are, some of them will never be in that school ever again, and they're fifth graders, and it's a hard thing, but to make this transition so much easier, and I think those kids' test scores might just really rock it out of the ballpark, is what I'm thinking.
I will tell you that one of the things that a lady that works with my husband gave me a backpack full of supplies that she had gone out, and so I happened to watch that backpack come in and it was unpacked and then repacked to get it ready for a child, and then it went to a third grader, and so I happened to see the child, so I quickly snapped a picture and then I sent it to the person who gave it to me and said, here's your donation, which was really cool. I thought that was a neat thing. I wish we would have that opportunity to thank everybody gratefully, because you give it and you don't really know, but to be able to show somebody, where that went, it was, I know that she really appreciated seeing that, but I wish we could do that for every single person so they could see the colors and the scissors and the backpacks and the shirts and whatever that they donated really in the hands of kids. So and they are in the hands of kids. We appreciate it.
And I'm sure that if there are people that donated, if they'd like to come visit or to contact the principal, Carrie Heinzerling.
Absolutely, we're happy to do that. We have laid low just a little bit to give the kids just a chance to kind of get their feet wet. But we had the open house. What night was that? We went Thursday. Yeah, Thursday night we had it, and it was really well attended. Stephanie Kingsley and I were all there, and it was extremely well attended. But what I thought was really cool, they had the kids give their parents the tour. Kids are so flexible and they are so resilient. So the kids came in and they said, come this way. This is how you go to PE. Come over here. This is where we keep our colors. And so the kids, it was like they were there their whole year. So the staff are still, the staff, as adults, we're just not quite as resilient as what those little kids are. So
change is hard.
Change is hard, but when you are, 9, it apparently comes much easier.
All right, anything further? Obviously, we are very grateful for our donations from our community, so thank you for that. All right, then all those in favor of accepting the donation from the Black Hawk County Gaming Association, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carried. Since we all said aye, I didn't go with the other one. All right, the next item on our agenda then is the West High School JROTC travel to Dayton, Ohio. And the recommended motion is the Board of Education approve travel for West High JROTC students and 2 instructors to Dayton, Ohio, March 22nd through the 24th of 2019.
So moved.
Thanks, Jesse. And a second?
Second.
India, thank you. And discussion. I know we've made you guys wait for 45 minutes out there. I really appreciate it.
No worries at all. So thanks for letting us, come speak again. Obviously, we do this every time, and obviously to kind of for the community to understand.
Yep.
So anytime we go out of state, we to make sure that it's okay to take kids out of state. Obviously, taking care of the children like we do. So this opportunity we have, we actually have an opportunity to go to Air Force Nationals. So this is literally a national level competition. It is an open nationals, so it is not something you have to qualify for, which is kind of nice. But what it allows us to do is just what we said. We were here, a month or so ago talking about going to Ozark, Missouri. It's building for the future. We've set this higher standard, this higher bar for our cadets. So this, they're going to get to see it firsthand, and I promise it's going to be eye-opening. These are the best in the nation, Air Force level. And then the only way to go from there is if they were to kind of win or whatever out of that would be go to Daytona Beach later on in the year to go to all service nationals, so to compete against Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, other junior RTCs. But so that's what we're doing, and we've really taken once again tried to take this next step with the program. As we've discussed earlier, we're doing so many things to try to up our numbers, do recruiting. We really feel, Chief and I really feel this is one of the best programs in the school that kids don't really know about. They think junior RTC, they see the uniform, and hey, my kid's going in the military, and that's not what we're all about. We're not recruiters. We are there to help kids be successful, and our mission is to build citizens of character for our nation and community. And we take that to heart. So that's what this kind of step is, to take these cadets. And even this weekend, we had a drill meet at home at Waterloo West. So we hosted a drill meet. Unfortunately, we had to kind of cancel because of on the 23rd of February because of weather. So we bumped it to the 9th, and we ended up only having 4 schools counting us. So it was a smaller event than we would like to have had, but it was very successful. It was great, and it was very eye-opening to our cadets. We did go to Ozark, and we did compete there. I wish I could have brought trophies and shown you those, but we didn't do that. But that's what this is. It's a building year. I liken a lot of our program almost like you think about a football coach. They come in, they recruit their team, they build their team, they build their culture. And 3-4 years down the line, that's when you start seeing them winning, regional, district, state championships. So that's what we hope to get to, and this is that next step. This weekend, showing our cadets, they put on one. There was 2 Marine junior RTC schools. Really, really sharp cadets they brought. East came. Their cadets were outstanding, and of course our cadets, pulled it all together and made it happen for those other teams hosting it. And so to us, this is the next step of, hey, we're going to take them. This Nationals open, and they're really going to see it. And I think, like I said, I think it's going to be hugely eye-opening. It is a long trip, Dayton, Ohio. And then last little piece I'd like to add in there is cost to this. When we do these things, most of the cost comes from the Air Force. The only thing we're really asking is to allow us to use the vans to transport the students. So if there are any questions, I'd love to field anything you have.
How many students total?
So we're only taking 14 once again, and what we've done is we've kind of blended. Of course, we have our senior, we have like our senior who's fantastic, and we have a couple juniors, but we also want to make sure we had we have a couple first years going. So they're going to be put feet to the fire, and our hope is that they're going to see this, and they're really going to come back with that fire and go, we need to make some changes. And this being a student-run program, we hope they're going to really, get some teeth and, take their there's some freshmen. They're gonna take some freshmen, and they're gonna come back and go, "Hey guys, we're not cutting it. These guys are," and they're gonna see some fantastic.
What's the total number of students?
14.
No.
Oh, what's our total? We have 60 students.
60.
So only 14 are going to this one. Like I said, the biggest reason is because of the level of competition. So we're taking our best, but.
And how does 60 compare with past years?
We are lower. So right now, as we discussed the last time we were here for our stuff, we do have some recruiting we need to do. Well, I say recruiting, but we actually have recruiting and retention. There's part of that is we do want to bring in some new cadets, but I also want to keep what I got, right? I want to keep the students we have because they're doing great things. They really are. We have a great student. So even though it's 60, it's a nice, hard-working 60. We just did our inspection last Thursday that we have to do every year with the Air Force. We passed that. We got to meet standards with that. Next year, the Air Force will actually come and inspect us. So once again, why we're trying to up those standards, so when they come and look at, Waterloo, Air Force Junior RTC, they go, this is one of the best, and that's what we're working for.
How do you choose out of 60-14?
So we actually had a competition, like our own in-house little competition. So most of the cadets out of 60 aren't on the drill team. So this is so it is a voluntary thing anyway if they want to compete work, because it's a lot of work. These cadets, when we first started, I mean, they were doing it 5 days a week. Some of them coming in at 6 a.m. We do have them come in 0 hour, 6:45 to 7:45 every morning. So they're already doing it at 5 hours a week. But some were adding even more time. They said, nope, we want to show up at 6 a.m. So that was on them. We accommodate them as much as they want. When we had, I don't remember the holiday we had, but that was preparing for Ozark. There was a 3-day holiday. They came in every week, or all day. And it was an 8-hour day one of the days. They wanted to come in an 8-hour day, so when the building was open. And then was it Hoover Middle School accommodated us for when we were getting ready to go to our other competition as well, because all of our basketball teams were using it to prepare that weekend. So, I mean, they're putting in some dedication. And then, of course, this is going to be over spring break. So for them to even say, we want to do this is a lot on them, right? So the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, so next weekend, and they are wanting to practice over spring break. So the dedication we really feel like is awesome, and we want to support that, right? We definitely want to push them and say, great. I'll be perfectly honest. Our expectations are building for the future, competition level. I mean, there's going to be, I would guess, in the hundreds of teams. So our odds for coming back with some hardware may be low. But our odds for using that as a stepping stone for next year and the year after, once again, I'm looking at the 3-4 year mark, and that's what I think is where we're gonna really get dividends in taking them to this.
So I have to ask you, does the Air Force have new physical requirements that the Army's getting all the publicity over?
So we are actually, as far as active duty, they are actually revamping it. They haven't come out with it yet that I know of, but they are revamping our physical fitness as well. And I will say that even with our inspection, they make us, we have to weigh in and do BMI. They don't make us do like run a mile or anything like that. We do BMI. So we were both past that. So we do have to maintain some level of keeping in shape, but they don't make us do an actual physical fitness test. So.
Just one last question. Do you ever have alumni come back and talk to the students?
We do. We love to have that. So the biggest way we usually do that is through the recruiters. They have what we call RAP, Recruiters Assistance Program. So once they go off, and it's usually they've gone off, like the summer, they've done their basic training for whatever service it is. And then a lot of times in the service, I know like for the Air Force, they have a transition where they go to what they call technical school. And that technical school, sometimes they have to have like a top secret clearance. Well, that takes time. So they kind of don't really have anywhere to put them. So they send them back with recruiters and say, hey guys, go talk to the high schools. And we'd love to have that. So what's the young man from the Marines? Rayson Nelson came from the Marine Corps. I was there last year. I wasn't here last year, so but I got to meet the young man. Fantastic young man. I mean, of course, the Marine Corps. God bless him for doing what he's doing. But he came back and spoke to the students. They love him, and that's right. Yeah, and put our Raiders team, which we're also once again another thing we're trying to develop. So we got a lot of things, a lot of irons in the fire that we're looking to build this program to the future. Not in just drill. We got Raiders. We've got other things that we're trying to get in. We're trying to get a flying program going. Chief's close to like an instructor rating, get some ground school. We've got an honors course. We've even got robotics. We've got a blend out there we can do. We got cybersecurity they can get a flavor in. So if kids are interested in kind of anything, and the Chief and I have always said, if there's anything you want to do in junior RTC, if we want to have an art club, I keep encouraging them. Come on, guys, let's have an art club, because there's so many great things they could do. They've painted our classroom. It needs updated. So if they have an art club to do that, or you do those kinds of things. So we like to have, the sky's the limit. Anything that we do, though, is cadet run. So that's all we ask, is a cadet is in charge of it. It's a student leader, and
So you offer ground school?
Program. Sir?
Did you say you offer ground school?
We are working at offering ground school. The big thing with offering ground school is we have to have somebody with an instructor rating. Chief's already a pilot.
I'm a private pilot. I'm actually trying to build my time to ultimately get my commercial flight instructor rating. But prior to that, you can actually get a ground instructor rating. And actually, we already have a template in our program that we could offer a one semester ground school. and at the end of it, they had to be 16 to be in that. It's like an honors course actually, and then they could actually go to Hawkeye and take the FAA written test, which is required before they can actually start their a pilot rating. So.
So I presume that's all electronic now. There's no maps or any of that.
Most instructors still teach it the old way, which is, pilotage and using a chart and planning it out before they actually can allow them to go. Yes, you're right. There is a lot of electronic flight bags is what they call them, where the maps are on there and they're GPS linked. I use it too, but I actually have my electronic map, but I always try to keep my skills refreshed by looking outside and finding my way, that kind of thing. So.
Well, I just want to thank you
Yeah,
for your
thank you.
passion, both of you. But
Oh, no
I mean,
doubt.
because the Air Force years back, 4 or 5 years ago at West High was at a high level, and then a little hiatus. And I mean, you're
You'll get
showing
there.
these kids aspirations at what they can become, and I really appreciate that. So, thank you very much for just your passion and exciting our kids.
It's interesting.
Thank you so much.
I can say you're talking about like the
I can't win.
the cyber ones.
Yes.
I know I go to Georgia a lot for work, and around Fort Gordon, it's amazing how many people they have moved in that area for that stuff down there. It's like 1,000 families or something. I mean, it's crazy.
Absolutely.
All right, we have a board member that needs to go, so I want to get this vote, and then gentlemen, hang on a minute. So,
Okay.
all those in favor of approving the West High School JROTC travel to Dayton, Ohio, will you please signify by saying aye?
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. You're all
I'm good.
good.
That's
No, go
fine.
ahead, Jesse. I'm so sorry. I wanted to go ahead and get that
Apologize
vote.
for,
No. You're
expanding
that's
the
awesome to have the
No.
passion. We just want to make sure we get the vote. So
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
all good.
No,
And
but
it's
it
im-
is
it's important
interesting
for
how expanding that field is. So you guys are
Absolutely, and once again, and I don't know, I mean, we offer it, and we haven't had any kids really kind of bite off on it, but that's the same thing. We try to make them successful in whatever they want to do. I mean, cybersecurity, those kids can walk out the door. We got great things, and even that's something we've kind of discussed, and we're not really sure, but something maybe we want to try to start is how can maybe tie into the WCC. There's such great initiatives out there. Kind of maybe have like some sort of feeder with Junior RTC and WCC, and I mean, I just think there's so many things that we could kind of blend and get going. It's just how to and how's the best way to put it in place and that. So I mean, I just think there's just unlimited opportunities with the program and what you guys are doing and the WCC is doing and where we're going as this is a district. So I think it's awesome.
Well, and to piggyback on what Sue said, it's so important that you guys are offering so many options, and these are all good for our kiddos. I mean, that's the thing, is that all of this is to make our students, succeed, and then to move on with those leadership responsibilities, et cetera. So you're providing them that platform to leap forward and ahead. So, all right, is there anything further? Now that I cut these guys off twice, I'm so sorry. All right.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And even though they may not bring home hardware, they're going to bring home invaluable experience. So it's going to be awesome.
They're going to bring home mental strength.
Yes. So, all right. The next item on our agenda then is the West High School BPA travel to Anaheim, California. And the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve travel for the West High BPA students and Devin Winters to Anaheim, California for the Business Professionals of America National Leadership Conference, April 29th through May 4th of 2019.
So moved.
Thanks, Jesse. And a second?
Second.
All right, and discussion. I know Devin's here with some students. I don't know if you guys want to come up, maybe tell us a little bit more about it. And I'm guessing that these 4 that are here are some of the ones that are going.
Yes, these are 4. We have one more that's going, but she wasn't able to.
That's totally fine.
First of all, I want to apologize. I thought it started at 6 tonight, so that's why we showed
Perfect
up.
time. Perfect time. That's okay.
That worked out well. So I will go ahead and let the girls start and tell you about themselves and what contests they're competing in.
My name is Adina Kaduzovic. I'm a junior at West. This is my second year in BPA, and I'm qualified for nationals in medical office procedures.
Wow.
My name is Elena Kang, and I'm junior at West High, and also I'm exchange student. I'm going to nationals for digital media production and fundamental desktop publishing.
My name is Alyssa Norman. I'm a sophomore at West High. I've been in BPA for 2 years, and I'm going to nationals for marketing management concepts, and also an internship that just basically helps out all the judges when they're doing their things.
My name is Sarah Young, and I'm going to nationals for integrated office procedures.
Do you guys have any questions for us?
How are you guys doing with your fundraising? Are you getting there?
Somebody want to step up? Go ahead.
Yeah, we just reached out to some businesses in our community, so we're directly going into there, and I know some people sent some letters as well. And we just started a fundraiser where we're selling like chocolate and like beef jerky, stuff like that. So
We're also working with JROTC. We kind of combined with them, so we're doing two with them to.
Excellent.
And have any of you participated before?
At nationals.
Yeah, nationals.
I've never been to nationals, but I went to the state leadership conference last year in Des Moines. So this is the first year that I have qualified.
So what's the nature of the competition? What will you be doing?
So I qualified in medical office procedures. So my competition includes a test where I will do a multiple choice exam over some medical terminology, and then I have to type up a patient form, and I have to make sure I have the format right and things like that.
Can I just ask you a quick question? What are your plans after high? Because you said you're a senior, correct? Junior. So what are your plans after high school?
Well, I'm competing in medical office procedures because I plan on going into the medical field, hopefully at the University of Iowa or somewhere around here. So that's why I chose to compete in this event, because the medical field interests me.
And Adina is also one of our IB students. So we've got students who are out of the Career Center. We've got students who are IB. We bring in a wide range of students. Do you have any males? Do we have any men?
Males.
Yes, yeah, we do. Just none happened to qualify this year. So it was just one of those things. Some years I've taken only a group of guys.
Yeah,
so it
you've
just
had,
happened to
you've
pass.
had quite a few men.
Yep, in the past, exactly.
And you had the national president, right, or
Yep,
something?
national president, and then he went on to become the post-secondary, also national president.
really?
Years ago. Yep. So.
Well, will you update us when you get back? Let us know how y'all did.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right, anything further for them?
Well,
Go ahead.
Well, the reason I ask is because, I know I'm here as a school board member, but Hawkeye Community College has a medical administrative assistant program, and I think it might be the University of Iowa or is one of the hospitals that will pay for the degree. So just ask that question, and you're a junior. So it would be great if you could do the thing that you love to do the thing that you're good at, and get somebody else to pay for it.
Hawkeye also actually
Sign me up for
engaged
that.
over there as well. So.
That's right. But make them show you the money.
And we like chocolate at the ESC, so come down and sell some, please.
Walk the halls.
And beef jerky.
Yes.
And are you selling in the community? And I see you brought a poster back or something. What are you selling?
Well, they're actually.
Yep.
They're selling it together.
Right,
Selling it
yeah.
together.
Partnering with us as we are working on fundraisers. Of course, it takes money to do the stuff we've been doing. And she said, hey, I've got some young ladies that kind of, to start their own fundraiser. So we said, we got one going on. So the young ladies are joining us with the one we've got currently. And then we're going to do chocolate after that. And so it just was a nice pairing to everybody work together.
Super.
Do you have product here tonight?
We do not.
All right.
Oh, you
So
should have.
nobody brought their packet.
You have a
with them
captive
today.
audience right here.
Yes. Okay, well, that means one of you has to come down here and walk around with what we're selling right now before JROTC does.
Or both. You can
Or
both come. We
That would be
have lots
good.
of people.
We can split it.
And put on your calendar to come on the 25th, our next board meeting, and I'll bring my wallet.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you all. And if you hadn't made it, we would have come back to you when you got here. Don't worry, we would have.
Just can't
You're
believe I
fine.
didn't realize it didn't
No.
start at 6.
Perfect
I
timing.
apologize
That's
very
totally fine. Don't worry about it. So,
much. Oh, that's all right.
all right. All right. Is there anything further? All right. Then seeing none, all those in favor of approving the West High School BPA trip to Anaheim, California, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. Have a good time, guys. Good luck. Thank you. Yay. All right, well, that concludes our consent agenda. Yay. So we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the Longfellow Elementary demolition bid approval. This is item L on page 54. And the recommended motion is the Board of Education accept the recommendation from Envision Architecture and approve the low bid from DW Zinsser for the amount of $237,000 for the Longfellow Elementary demolition project.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thanks, Jesse. And discussion?
By its nature, demolition, it isn't unusual to have a big bid spread, but when there's that much difference between the low bid and the second low bid, I think it's always appropriate to ask, are we sure all the proper disposal, all the proper safety, all the proper code issues are being complied with the low bid?
The architect and Marty go through all of those concerns. And this is also someone we've worked with before.
Yep.
Okay.
So they were comfortable with the bid.
Lyle, I actually reached out to Marty when I saw this and asked him why the discrepancy. And sometimes, of course, it's because of the market and that
Yeah.
people don't really want the work. What he believes is that Zinsser did a lot more back work to actually find out the actual needs of what needed to happen, as opposed to. So he felt like it was even a better dipstick of what the true cost would be.
In other words, they're covering the unknowns with dollars.
Absolutely, that they
But
had
it's-
done some research.
But it's good seeing about 7 bids, so it's nice to see you.
Yeah, I'm impressed that there were 7 bidders. They did
Yeah.
a good job.
That's great.
Soliciting bids. as
Yeah.
well.
And it does say that they did the demolition at Orange, so
They
they
did.
had already worked with us, already know
Yeah.
our expectations, so I think that probably
Yep.
helped too, so.
But it's a attractive bid, I think.
Awesome. And for that neighborhood, it's
Very
finally
favorable.
going to come down. So
Yes, yes,
thank you for your patience.
absolutely.
Quick question. I drove past there. Does that also include the jungle gym or I guess the annex portion too? Does it?
I think it's the whole site.
The whole site.
The whole
Okay,
site,
okay,
I believe.
okay.
Michael, do you know? I think it's the whole site. But we can find out for sure on that.
Oh, okay. Because I just assumed.
I think.
I don't think we'd leave anything out at all.
Okay.
It's the whole building that I understand, so, but, and the playground is kind of part of that. And the-
Yeah, it was just separate when I saw it, and I was like, oh, does that include that portion too? But
Right. I think it should. I can double check with Marty, though.
Well, and the problem with we've checked this before, is like that equipment it ages
Right.
and then it doesn't fit standards.
Right, we
Because
can't
I
move
always
it.
thought, could we
Code,
move it
yeah.
or reuse
Right.
it?
Right.
And it's even donating to the city or what, nobody will take it even.
Right,
Right.
And it's still our responsibility even if we take the building down. so-
correct.
Yep.
So I just drove past it and I just saw the separate portion to it. So I didn't know if that was part of the.
Pretty
the
sure it is,
demolition.
but we'll find out for sure.
Yeah, 'cause we took one down at Edison. And
Right.
That came down too.
That had to go, unfortunately, too.
Huh?
Was it separate? Like, it's
The
almost like it's across
playground
the.
was all separate.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
But it came
It
down
actually was a big wood structure, and all that came down.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
We
anything
either,
for,
we either need to remove it or officially give it to the city
Someone.
or somebody, making sure it's meets all the current safety standards, one way or the other.
No, I think I don't think the city will accept, I think it's
No,
gotta
I don't
come
think so.
down.
I
The
think
city
so.
won't accept it
All right.
that way, yeah.
right. All right, anything further? Then all those in favor of approving the Longfellow Elementary demolition bid, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. That takes us to the next item on our agenda, which is the Instructional Support Program. This is item N on page 83. Oh, I'm so sorry. I went right by that. So we're gonna do the board policy changes next, Tara, sorry. It's item M on page 56. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think we said 14 of these listed here. Exhibit M, this is our second reading of these. And the recommended motion is that the board approve the following policies: anti-bullying, anti-harassment policy, employees' right to know, hazardous chemicals, probation status of teachers, health and major medical insurance, licensed employee contract release, early retirement, teacher leaves of absence for represented employees, salary schedules, high school graduation, school food service program, eligibility for free or reduced price meals, food and beverage sales in competition with the food service program, buildings and sites, and tobacco nicotine products free environment.
So moved.
Thanks, Sue. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, so that's a lot of policies. Are there any questions for Tara?
Several of these appear to be pretty much a total rewrite. I didn't go through line item by line item, but you know, the old one's pretty much all crossed out, and then there's a brand new. Is it-
Correct. When a particular policy comes up for review, if the department or the person who's assigned to oversee that policy wants to make changes, oftentimes some of the language is completely rewritten so that it's updated to current practice. So you're right, it's unusual, but some of these policies compared to those that come before you in meetings past do have a lot of rework, in fact, entire paragraphs that are being struck and replaced. And a lot of this is also, as the committee members can attest, aligned with the IASB model policies. So for whatever reason, quite a few of our policies didn't have a lot of the same language, and this has been a great opportunity to coalesce more effectively with what's being suggested by the IASB.
I just have a quick question, Tara. Whenever there's a student policy that has to do with possible expulsions or suspensions, when we make changes, what does the district do to make the students aware of the changes in policies
That's
so
a
that they
great
will know what
question.
their rights and responsibilities are?
Up to this point, there hasn't been a significant change specific to students around that, but each of these policies we're going to look at and talk about communication steps to educate not just the staff, but obviously the parents and families when it's impacting the students. The handbook every year gives them a great opportunity to see and review updates, but as we've discussed, sometimes people assume it's status quo when they're given materials every year. So some of the policies that go above and beyond in terms of changes or have significant differences from the current ones, we'll consider doing a more higher level communication. So thank you for that suggestion.
So if there's any changes in the form that the students sign in the fall,
Code of conduct?
code of conduct, these changes will be reflected in that?
That's a good question. Student Services handles the handbook, so I'm only familiar with the policies as they come before me, and then I help edit some of the handbook, but I'm not sure where the overlap lies.
The code of conduct isn't really a policy or a procedure that is in the list.
Something like this would
Right.
be added
We
in
would probably
there.
add, like, the word I think about is that we added
Right.
vaping to the nicotine.
Right.
And I would think that would be added.
There is a cross-reference on the policies because the handbook actually references policy numbers, so sometimes we change a number, so we have to make sure we coordinate that with the handbook. If there's a slight change that would impact the intent of the policy, then we will change that in the handbook, because I've seen the handbook every year and they lay it out, and there are red marks all over it of different things that have changed, and some of them are policy changes.
But the students aren't gonna read the policy nor the handbook. They're gonna read the sheet of paper they're given to sign, maybe.
Right.
They may read it,
Well, they
may
do.
not.
They don't read it, but they go over it line by line
Yeah.
during the.
My
so
point is, all those lines should reflect the newest policy.
they do because that is updated. But if there's, I think one could argue that there's a policy or two that isn't referenced in the one-page document because of the limiting length. And so the question is there something that they should know that is a policy that isn't in the summary document? That's certainly possible too.
So
So we can always look back and see. I mean, the student services is always looking at things that happen and making sure, like, if this happened with 20 students or this is an issue that has come up 20 times, that's going to make its way in. So they're looking at by what needs to be known, what questions are constantly asked or continually asked. So they're looking at that, but we can certainly make a recommendation to them that they go back and revisit it one more time and just make sure that they've got all of the most important stuff in the one-page document.
Okay, anything further for Tara? All right, then, all those in favor of approving the board policy changes, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried.
And could I also add here too that I just want to compliment Tara and Kingsley to that extent too. You've seen a lot of policies come across your table here the last 6 months, and it really was an effort, probably a joint effort, but Tara maybe took the leading role on this, getting all of our policies up to date. We had a few that really needed to come before you because, as you know, they have to be updated every 5 years. So kudos to Tara for
Shaming people.
For shaming people into getting this done. She was all over it. So.
I say that with all due respect.
Yeah, no, it was. So it was good. So thank you, Tara and Kingsley.
So do we have any policies remaining that aren't within the 5-year update?
Would we just
They will
have-
be coming before you in the next meeting. I believe we've plowed through all of them, so they all should be current, thanks to Sue and Aster and other members of the committee. We just had a marathon meeting.
Yeah. We're getting really, really close, and I'm glad you asked that now versus 6 months ago, because there were some that were really needing to be updated, so.
And we just remind everybody, I'll take this opportunity to say that you can go to our website and you can search any policy by keywords. So to your point, Lyle, if a parent had a question, or to Rhonda's point about something like expulsion, if you went to that search bar, typed in those keywords, it should hit and give folks that quick link directly to the policies that would incorporate any language around that. But we also can do a good job or a better job of sharing the changes as they happen if they are significant.
And under the New to Waterloo tab off of our website, there's right underneath that is a policies link. So if they wanted to see all the policies, every single one of them is listed there. So they can click in the 100 series, the 200 series, the 300 series, and so they can see all of them. So many districts don't have them online, but we have every one of them online.
And they're always updated immediately after you guys' approval. So that's what our secretarial staff will be working to do this week, is make sure that all these changes are reflected current on the website.
Weeks and months of fun reading, should somebody choose to do so.
Well, I just quickly want to underscore this. And the reason this is important to the listeners and the viewers is because as a district, we try to be responsive to a lot of the issues and trends that we're seeing in our schools based on some of the behaviors. So as administrators and as a district, we change those policies in response to that. Unfortunately, sometimes that does not translate over to some of our young people and some of the parents who are not familiar with that, because that's not part of their wheelhouse, is to look at issues and trends in education. So I think it's important, we try to put it on our website, we put it in our handbook, we do it at our orientations. So I think as a district, we do our due diligence, but we're also aware of the fact that not a lot of people read the handbooks. So I'm just asking on behalf of the district, we're making these new policy changes to add safety and protection for our students. If you would please, as parents and community members and students, take the opportunity to read this if you don't, so that you can understand your student rights and responsibilities.
Good point.
Great point. All right, is there anything further then? All right. Then seeing none, we did already vote on these. We already voted. We just came back to talking about it. There we go. So, okay, then now we will move on to the instructional support program, which is item N on page 53. And that recommended motion is the Board of Education approve the following resolution to participate in the instructional support program for the Waterloo Community School to be in effect from 2019-20 fiscal year through 2023-24 fiscal years.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
And discussion. So we talked about this at our last meeting. Anything? I was gonna wait for Sue to get back. I was gonna. Okay. All right. Well then, all those in favor of approving the instructional support program, this is a roll call vote. So I'm gonna drag this out because Sue's gonna be back here by the time I get to that. So, India Johnson?
Yes. India. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry. Jesse Knight?
Yes.
Rhonda McCrina? Yes. Lyle Schmidt?
Yes.
Shanley McNally votes yes, and that's where we're going to be. So there you are. All right. Thank you. The next item on our agenda then is the 2019-20 budget estimate and publication. This is item O on page 87. And the recommended motion here, while Michael Coughlin gets up for his presentation, is the Board of Education approve the budget expenditure estimate and the tax levy rate for publication and set the public hearing for the 2019-20 certified budget at 5 p.m. on April 8th, 2019. Can I get that motion on the table?
So moved.
Thank you, India and Jesse. Second?
Second.
Great. And I will turn it over to Michael Coughlin. Thank you.
I was expecting a little bit of discussion on the instructional support levy.
I
didn't
thought-
come over here first.
There you go. It's all right. I was the one that.
And the PowerPoint slides are being handed around,
Yep.
correct? There should be enough for everybody. Okay. This has been a pretty extensive presentation in all the last 11 or 12 years I've been doing this. But when I was thinking about it, one of the things that came up was we are kind of split. We have very senior board members, experienced. I'm not calling you senior. And we have new board members. So what I've tried to do this time is to do a little bit of a abbreviated presentation, cut the slides in half, and just kind of get to the meat of the issue, and then if you have any particular questions, we can deal with that. What I wanted to just open with is you'll have to look at your screen to see colors because it's not on the presentation. But the funds that we deal with that involve property tax are the general fund, the management fund, and the PEPAL fund. Capital projects and capital debt come from the sales tax, and student activity and lunch fund come from fees and federal and state reimbursement. So there's no property tax involved. Our budget is based on enrollment. It is different than municipalities that base their budgets on property valuation and then apply a tax rate to that so they can build their expenditures. Ours budgets are built on our enrollment times allocation from the state or cost per pupil. So enrollment is one of the major issues of information for us, and that's why counting all the kids is so important. And you can see over the last 5 or 6 years that we've bounced around a little bit and are down 100 students for last fall in 2000, when we counted last time, and that goes to the 1920 budget. This is a chart you've seen many times as far as how Cash, we actually have three types of trends that we track. One is our authority, that's the middle line. One is fund balance, that's like what's in the bank after you've paid all of your bills. And the top number is the cash. Well, that number is always higher because at the end of the year, we still have to pay a couple of months of summer salaries. And then that top line will actually come down and intersect with the fund balance. They're really the same numbers on a different timeline. So coming into the 1920 budget, and I'm just going to start saying the 20 budget. Last year, our cost per pupil from the state was $6,736. The SSA, the state supplemental assistance increase, what the legislature gives us and the governor approves, was a 2.06%. The year before it was 1%. So when you look at the bottom line, you see the previous number plus the 139 that comes from the 206. So it's really 6736 times 2.06%, and that gives you $139. And then the state has been making up differences because some districts have that 6736. They had a number that was $170 higher, and that came from past history, and it's been there for a long time, and they're starting to throw out $5 a year to kind of bring that spread back together. They can't afford to do it all at once, so they're doing it a little bit at a time. So our new cost per pupil is $6,880. This is probably the most involved page. So when we look at what builds a budget, it's the revenue. It's not the expenditures. That's what we decide when we approve a budget, is the revenues. And then we have to match the expenditures to it. So we can't decide to spend a lot more money and just raise taxes for it. School districts cannot do that. So if there were high settlements on negotiations, that wouldn't matter. We would still have to live within the limit that the revenue formula tells us. So I'm just going to run down the list of what generates that, and this is what I call the base budget, because it's based on that enrollment number times what the state gives us per pupil, and that's the $74 million. Then there's extra things, supplemental weighting, a lot of that is ELL, 1.9 million, and then all of the weighting that comes with special ed students. We get a little over 16 million for that. The state has categorical funds, which the TSS is teacher salary supplement, TQ professional development, teacher leadership. You're familiar with some of those terms, a little over $11 million. And then what we send to the AEA is $5.5 million. There's also authority. That isn't cash, but we're getting back the authority that we spent for open enrollment that weren't on the list from the year before, and we still have to send the money to the neighboring district. So that's action you take in December. It also involves ELL students, and if we remove asbestos, we can apply to get authority back for that. So that's $2 million. And the at-risk program, which the majority of that is Expo, is 3.6. So the total base budget of all those components is almost $115 million. So you take that number and then you apply the carryover, what we carried over from the year before, $20 million, plus the instructional support levy that you just approved for another 5 years, is $4.8 million. Which is all property tax. And then the preschool state aid was separate funding when they added that as a funded program a few years ago, 1.8 million. And then miscellaneous is title grants and different federal grants and interest we get. And if we charge any fees, it's all the things that don't belong to state aid and property tax. So when you look at the total budget that we have to work with in the general fund, it's $156 million for 1920.
Is that miscellaneous, is that, pretty firm?
It
Or-
has been very consistent. There are some times that a funding will change. When the state added some of those categoricals, they talked about dropping off some of the areas that they had been, one of them was called state class size. It was something they did years ago, but they left it on. One of them that I can think of offhand was administrator mentoring. They used to give us money for that when new principals came in and people would mentor and they do professional development and we got money for that. Well, they ended it. So some come and go, but we have been, in the time that I've been here, I think we've been between 11 and 12 million up to this about 14 and a half. So it has stayed pretty consistent. The part where it did jump is when we had the Recovery Act money from President Obama. That was a kind of a blip on the screen that showed a difference. So when you look at all of those numbers, the part that we're dealing with tonight is, how do you know how much is property tax? How do you know how much is state aid? Because those are the two main funding sources that fund that base budget. So by code, and just a lot of you have seen this in different presentations, but this just helps you tie together that every district in the state has to charge $5.40 in property tax. It's called a uniform levy. Everyone does it. And that's what starts your funding. And for us, it's almost $15 million.
That's $5.40 per $1,000 valuation.
Yep. $5.40 for every $100,000 of property valuation, assessed valuation that you have. The next level, the green section, is the state is going to fund up to 87.5% of your base budget number. So whatever your $5.40 generates, if you're a property poor district, it doesn't generate that much, as compared to somebody that is more affluent neighborhoods and district, whatever. That number may be much higher, the yellow, in percentage-wise, and then the green shrinks. But everybody ends up between the 540 and state aid at 87.5% of their budget. That's called equalization formula. And then when you hear other states that don't do it that way, that's how some states, a wealthier district, will have much more money per student to spend. So the state aid up to that is $80,000. And above that, we have 12.5% left, right? 87.5, 12.5 to get up to 100% of your base budget. So that then goes back to property tax again. So if you are a value poor district, the rate for that is higher. If somebody can make a lot of, can collect a lot of money through their tax rate because they have high value in their property, their tax rate doesn't grow that much. So when you look at tax rates for communities around Des Moines, and you know which ones are wealthier and which ones aren't, and compared to us, compared to Cedar Falls, compared to rural districts, that's where the differences come from, is why our tax rate's different. But that's not the end of this story, because other state laws call for tax reform, and they're saying districts that have a low value of property per student, they get tax breaks from the state. So in our case, That 12.5% is almost $17 million. But when we get our tax reforms, it drops to 12.3. And that amount gets added to state aid. The state takes it and says, we'll pay for it. So instead of getting 80 million for state aid, we get 84 million. So that's how the distribution between state aid and property tax work. It has basic formula, but depending on your property value, it's different for every district. Just depending on how rich per student their value is. Okay, so to give you some history, the tax valuation for the general fund, you can see it's changed $100 million over the last 6 years, from 2.6 to 2.77, little, so 150 million. And in this year, it improved 3.75%. So if you need to raise more money with property tax and the valuation goes up, that means your rate won't go up as much. Usually about a 3% increase on valuation covers the increase of raising property tax money.
Was there anything special that contributed to the 3.75%? Was there TIF districts or something that came into play?
TIF actually went up, and I don't know the details to that well enough to give you an answer. But TIF did change this year, and it's growing. But TIF is a complicated concept to understand.
But you can't anticipate at this point next year's increase.
It would depend on whether they're creating any more and if any of them are running out, but that doesn't seem to ever happen. They just keep renewing them.
Okay.
But it's more of community development where they're adding TIF districts, and it's a valid argument, discussion, that they are worth it to the community and worth it to the district. So the next slide you have is a breakdown of all the different classes in the property tax. So when you look at the top line, the residential property, which is the majority of it, it is 62% of all of our valuation is residential property, and it's valued at $1.7 billion, and it went up 3.55%. So you can go down the ag ones and the commercial property and so on. All of them showed increases. And then you got to multi-residential, railroads, utilities, military exemption. Those were they're minor numbers and minor changes. So when you get to the bottom, you see the $2.770 million, actually $billion, $2.7 billion of valuation, and it did go up 3.75% as a whole. But the majority of it is residential property went up 3.55. So that was the strength of this increase. The tax levy rate. Now that we've decided how much by formula goes to property tax and how much is state aid, we apply it to the valuation. And this is what our valuation has done in the last 6 years. We've seen a decrease every year but one. And the current year or last year's certified budget hearing, we were approving $14.57 or a drop of 41 cents. This is just an information slide on the tax reform amounts. It comes from 3 different programs, plus there's also the commercial industry 10% that the state pays and charges them 90% as far as tax relief. So getting back to the tax rate, the recommended proposed rate for 1920 goes from $14.57 to $14.20 and some change. That amounts to $40 million, a little over, which is about a 450, if I did that right in my head, 450,000 worth of new money, but the rate went down almost 37 cents again. This is a breakdown by the different components that collect property tax. Just the basic general fund is 31 million of that. The instructional support levy is 4.8. Management fund is 1.2 million. The board voted PEPAL is 33 cents, or just over $1 million, and the voted PEPAL is 67 cents, $2,055,000. So that's a breakdown of the rate by fund and the dollar value. An important factor in this is also called the rollback. So when you have an assessed valuation, you don't get taxed on the whole amount. There's a percentage set up by the state Department of Revenue, I believe, that says we will take your assessed valuation and convert that into a lower number based on the rollback amount. So let's go back to the residential property. In 2017, if you had $100,000 worth of value, you would take 100 times 55%, and that's what you would pay property tax based on. It's not the difference, that is the number. So it's easy to keep that straight when you look at industrial and commercial and say, oh, they have to pay 90%. So it's the same for the other categories. This is the percentage they pay, not the difference from 100%. So we see in that our biggest factor, residential, went from 55.6% to 56.9%. So that went up 1.3%. And that's kind of a significant number when you look at the history over the last few years. So what that means is you can have the same value, have a lower tax rate, but if the rollback went up, your ending bill could still increase.
Is that slide correct? Go back one. Did the rollback go down in 17?
Yeah, it has gone down in past years.
So is that foreseeable, what it is in the upcoming years, or how is that calculated?
I have never seen an explanation of it.
So the state just publishes a number.
Yeah, you can go on and just say Iowa rollback, and you'll get a 20-year history of just a chart of all of those numbers. So for our situation, for the property tax amount, the effect on the taxpayer, the drop from 1457 to 1547, I'm saying this wrong. I'll get to it. Okay. The residential is going from 55.6% to 56.9%. Multi-residential condos, whatever fits in that, from 78.75 to 75%. So that went down. Commercial and industrial stayed the same at 90, and agriculture went up from 54.4 to 56.1. But we have, if you remember back on that chart of classes, there's only about 2% that is agricultural, so it would not affect. And that's a hard one to even do a comparative, because they're paying by the acre, not by value. So it's a different concept, so it's a little hard to do apples to apples. So here's a calculation example for last year in 18-19. If you had $100,000 worth of property, you would take 100 times $14.57, which was the rate last year. So your bill would be $14.57. But when you add the rollback for residential, it went to $8.10. For commercial, it was $13.11. Agriculture was $7.94. So apply the new numbers, 100,000 for $14.20. That residential now with a higher rollback, even though the rate drops, it's $808 rather than $810. Commercial would follow at the 90% because that's not changing, be consistent. Agriculture went up to 56. So they were at 794, went to 797. So it's almost a wash, but again, it's really a hard one to even do a comparison because of the acre situation. But I wanted to give at least an estimate of what that might be.
But for residential, our reduction a little more than offset the rollback increase.
It did. So you're really looking at kind of a three-prong issue with how do property taxes affect the taxpayers. One of them is what is the rate. One of them is what has valuation done. And the third one is what did the rollback do? So when we were dealing with trying to come up with the right number for the rate that we wanted to apply, one of the variable numbers in there is a cash reserve number, which just helps with cash flow during the year, and then when we have things that don't come in on time and we have to pay for students a year before we get money for them. We've been using that. It ends up being between $1 million and $2 million a year that we have to kind of carry that responsibility until the funding comes. This year, we had talked about several numbers with that, and these numbers reflect a $750,000 cash flow number. So that would allow us to be able to have a lower rate, and even with the rollback, then a property tax owner would see a little lower rate as well. So that was part of the discussion with this. The other part of your responsibility tonight as far as publishing the budget is now taking budget estimates for expenditures and saying for all the money that we have through the formula, how are we going to set the limits of spending? It's not getting into all of the detail. Of course, part of it is there, but it's giving trend estimates of what we're doing in different funds. And even as you look at this, there are times that we think we were going to go a little higher, and let's just talk about the general fund at the top. Last year we certified 145 million. This year I'm requesting 141, almost 142 million. It doesn't mean that it's going to restrict us in what we do. Last year we shot a little high. I shot a little high because we were doing some things different with Chapter 20 and didn't know how that was all going to pair out. So to have a little bit better trend idea of what we can certify for the budget for 20. But it also allows us that if we get through the year and we find out that the budget needs to be amended, that's something that we've done several times as well. It doesn't raise taxes, it doesn't give us any more funds to work with. It just allows us to spend more of the balance that we're carrying forward. Because these numbers also represent that we're carrying forward $18 to $20 million, even at the end of 20. Unless we come up with something quite inventive that's not in there yet, but that's the trend representation.
Is that management number correct for?
No, it's not.
Okay.
And it's one of those, what happened was SAVE was supposed to be in there. And somehow it got bleeped out of this slide, and I saw it while I was sitting over there and tried to reconstruct it. And So the total is right.
But the number's not right.
Yeah, but the 1.8 to 12.
Actually, the number is not right on 20 either. On the back, I was making corrections and it didn't get on this one. So if you look at the back page, this is the table that will be published in the paper. And the number that's correct based on all the forms is line 36 is 179 million, not another 169 million. So that is all the funds added together of what we're going to spend. And I will have those numbers for you and the detail of all of those forms in the next board meeting. So this is what is the requirement of the action by the board, that you certify publishing the tax rate if you agree with what's recommended, and you approve the maximum allowable expense for all the funds. So it was 179 million, and I'm not keeping the rest of that in my mind, but this is the breakdown that got goofed up. So I'll send you a corrected one so you've got that, just so you can reference it.
It's right on the, Michael, it's right on page 12 under the board resolution. The total budget maximum is right, is
Okay.
179.
Yep.
So
So those are the two parts of the resolution that need to be approved, and then I publish it, and it will be published the last week of March. And then it will be ready for board action on April 8th. And then it has to be to the county auditor by April 15th. So
You mentioned that the authority fund typically is pays out to other districts. Do we do that every month, that we pay a fee to like Hudson, and do we do it every month?
I didn't understand any of that.
Sorry.
for like open enrollment? Are you
Yes,
talking
it's
about?
a line item that we pay out to different districts, and that
Right.
comes out of the authority fund
Oh, yeah, all expenditures use our authority.
every month.
Pardon?
Every month?
Yep.
Okay.
If you look in here, you'll see.
Yes, and I was always curious why we.
Yeah.
That's why. I
That's
was
why
wondering.
every month there's a line item for that expense, yep.
Yeah.
Well, it would be every
District
general
that-
fund
Yes.
expenditure.
Okay.
So it's PEPAL, that's just like a cash balance, just like you would keep books at home, and save, and the other ones. General fund is the only one that has the authority. We get it by this formula. So we can spend up to that formula even if we don't have the money yet. It's all promised by the state formula.
Okay.
And that's kind of like property taxes. We get those in October and March. We get big amounts, and state aid comes in all during the year. So we have a fluctuation of when we have available cash. But by formula, we know what's coming.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
So, do we have a motion on the table yet?
We do.
On the one on page 88?
Hang on, I gotta get back to that. Hang on a second. Yes, that's the one I read anyway.
Okay. So the tax levy rate we're voting on is 1420?
20.
Yep.
Or is it 1421? I know you've got it out there.
So
So
Well, there's 5 digits to it.
okay, okay,
So we need to write that in, because that's not on our page,
okay.
right? 14, so we're actually approving 14 point,
20.
It should be on that last page with all of the numbers that gets published.
Right.
694.
But the recommended motion doesn't have that tax levy rate in it, and I agree with you, Lyle, we should add it. And Michael, I just want to be clear, I don't believe that we're going to drop it, but this is always the maximum expenditure. And
It is.
in some years, I know we've not known what our supplemental state aid or, and some of those things. We don't foresee this amount changing, do we?
No, we
Okay.
don't. The only thing that comes up with this is there are some numbers in the formula that are not totally known yet.
Okay.
And when the State Department of Revenue goes through that, and one of the things that may affect it is what the legislature does with the AEA funding.
Okay.
They don't do that early, but they've taken action later, and that may, I mean, every year we usually have a difference in the tax rate that comes back, and
Okay.
it's like 5 to 10 cents.
Okay.
And then we can just go with the action of the board and correct it. And that's what we've done the last several years.
Okay, so Lyle, would you entertain a friendly amendment? Jesse and India, would you entertain a friendly amendment to add the tax rate of 14.20694? 94.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think we need both numbers. Approve the budget.
And the certified budget amount of
expenditure
179.
Estimate of $40,122,582.
Great.
And a tax rate levy of 14.206.
Okay.
94.
I don't know. Do we need the budget maximum?
Yes.
Yeah. The 179,
What
179
you're
million.
required to approve is the tax rate and the budget
And
maximum.
the budget maximum, right. That's what I was going to say. I think we just need to add the maximum, not the 40.
Okay.
So the
All right.
1420 and then
179, 606. Well, and Michael, I know we discussed this in finance, but I, for one, was happy to see with an increase in valuation and with the rollback being slightly higher, that we were still able to drop the tax rate 36 cents. I think that's great. I think that speaks to how we've been financially and fiscally responsible. And I'm glad that I think our taxpayers are getting a great benefit from our schools, clearly. But I always think it's helpful that we can provide that. If we can drop the tax rate and still provide the services that we need, I think that's a good thing.
And also, to piggyback on that, with leaving the reserve at 750,000, you know, I'm more comfortable with that little bit larger number, and I just think, you know, we never know what we might need that for, and I think it's better to have it there. And still, with this, we are lowering the rate, but we still are not putting us into a position that might create a problem if we ran into a rainy day
Correct.
Situation. So I really appreciate all your hard work on that. And also, I thought it was pretty interesting when we were, I guess on the sheets, it was on page 11, but with the food service, with the cost being about 220,000 more, when we were wondering how that would affect us when we went to most all buildings except the high schools. Well, East High is on the
These
yeah.
numbers are still based on trends. So
not actuality.
a hard evaluation of that has not been done yet.
Okay, because I would like to see that with
Yeah.
the CP's program. But I do concur at our finance meeting. We discussed a couple different options, and
Right.
I think this is holding true to our constituents, and we're being frugal with our money, yet still being very effective, I believe, and with the new career center. And I mean, we just have a lot of wonderful offerings, but we're doing it in a fashion of being budget wise and dollar conscious. And so I appreciate that, and I hope our citizens do too. And again, this is only the portion of the cities, so or the schools, we still have the city and county to add their portions. But I would stand fast that we are very conscientious of our dollars here in the district. So thank you, Jane and staff and Michael.
Am I correct in understanding the 750,000 cash reserve will come very, very close to meeting our authority?
Yep.
It's like within 1%.
We're always a little behind because we
Yeah.
always overspend in ELL, and depending on what happens in enrollment next fall and whether we have to pre-fund. So that number's hard to chase and hit it exactly,
Yeah.
but we're very close.
For all practical purposes, we've got enough cash to
Yeah,
cover
there's
it.
money behind
everything.
the authority.
And Michael, also correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is either 8 out of 9 or 9 out of 10 years that we have been able historically to lower the tax rate. Am I
Yep.
correct?
Yeah, I think when I came, it was 1650,
Yeah.
roughly.
And we're down to 1420.
Yep.
That might be a headline, Andrew.
16.
Should I say it again? 16.
Say that one more time and say it
14-20.
slowly.
All right, I'm going to just for giggles, I'm going to reread this. I'll figure it out, but so that we have the right motion. This is a friendly amendment, and the recommended motion is the Board of Education approve the budget expenditure estimate of $179,606,338 and the tax levy rate of 14.20694. Publication and set the date, and set the public hearing for the 2019-20 certified budget at 5 p.m. on April 8th, 2019.
Could we add to that friendly amendment maximum?
The maximum budget expenditure? Sure.
The maximum tax levy.
India and Jesse, are you okay with that word?
Yes.
The maximum budget expenditure? Don't make me read it again, you guys.
Just because, just with the
Right,
thought
so that we all
process
should
of
know that, yeah.
it can
in our-
be lowered.
Yes,
I
it
mean,
can.
You know, so we can't go higher, but we
Right,
can lower.
that is the
So
max.
if indeed that would
Something like-
happen, that would
right.
even be more joyous.
All right.
Good.
All right, anything further? Thank you all for accepting those friendly amendments. Then all those in favor of accepting the recommended motion as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. The next item on our agenda then is item P, and this is the Waterloo Career Center change order number 9. And the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the Waterloo Career Center change order 9 as presented as an add of $143,477.16.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you, India. And any discussion on this? This is just allowing us some flexibility to finish out some rooms that are up on the second floor that when we first started, we weren't exactly sure what we were going to do, and this will allow us to finish them out and use them. So
Does this change timeline as far as completion?
it does not. And it also piggybacks on with the current construction schedule in terms of having people there so that the cost is a little bit more efficient because of that.
Okay.
So
So, could I ask what specifically, I mean, this isn't a huge amount of money, I mean, in the terms of this project of $143,000, what we are doing to prepare these rooms?
walls, doors.
Yeah.
Walls, doors.
Walls,
Yeah.
doors, water, some science labs, tables. One of the programs, when we started this, we weren't, if we go all the way back, we really talked about the word shelling these out, that we were just gonna really put a shell around these 3 rooms because we just didn't know quite yet, and we had enough other spaces that we were modeling that we were ready to bring the 3 programs and then the 4 programs and then the 5 programs. But if you look at the second paragraph, it really does say with the success with the success of the Waterloo Career Center and what it's experiencing, we have determined that it would really be advantageous to start thinking about these 3 music rooms. We know that one of the programs coming forward, while we don't know exactly what it will be, we do know that it will have some science connections, and so we knew we would need tables for whatever pathway. We also knew that we would need water in so running all of that now before they close up the walls and that is it's just gonna be cheaper. We would have been spending this anyway. The only difference is that we're doing it now and it's less than it would have been had we chosen to wait a couple years to see how things go. We feel like we have enough information now that we should look at these now. So it
These are
still
the
leaves the flexibility open.
Yes,
So-
exactly. And I'm gonna just want to clarify, it's the former music rooms. They're not currently, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's where
The
the
former,
old band and where those were, so.
old, yeah.
And they're nice big rooms that, at one point I think we thought we'd, like you said, just shell them out, but get some doors and some flexibility in there.
And the computer capabilities are all there, the Wi-Fi.
All the
and
technology would be there, but
Hardwiring.
not the technology itself.
Right,
Right.
right.
The
Like
other
the
thing.
tap-ins,
Mhm,
okay.
Yep. The other thing I would add on the third room, it does provide a wall down the middle. It's quite a large room, and we are discovering that if we have classrooms, classroom options for core classes, that literacy, math, science, social studies, that could connect to the Career Center courses, the students can come out and they can be there for one program and then take an associated core class, core being math, science, social studies, or language arts. So we actually do need some space for that. So one of these classrooms lends itself very well to that. And it also has a wall down the middle. And it's not an elaborate wall, but it has a half wall that's stationary, and then it has a partition that can be moved. So it could be one big room or it could be two classrooms. Gives a lot of flexibility in the future. So, and it's definitely cheaper to do it now.
So this is classified as a expansion of project scope as opposed to covering unforeseen costs. That
It is. That's exactly right.
Right. And India, as you referred to, just because we have people there already, it's cost effective.
Got it.
So
Yeah, definitely an expansion of the scope of the work. We would have been spending this money at some point in time anyway when we were ready to do that, but we're just expediting that now.
Got it.
And I truly appreciate the vision and the pre-planning for that, because that will save us in the long run.
It will.
And
Yes, it will.
also
It will.
the success of the center, you only see. So again, being fiscally responsible, I think, kudos.
All right, anything further then on that WCC change order? All right, then seeing none, all those in favor of approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. That concludes the action items on our agenda this evening, and so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Lindeman for her superintendent's report.
I only have one tonight, and it is just to reference the upcoming ISASP testing, which stands for Iowa Statewide Assessment of Student Progress. It is the new test, and it replaces the former Iowa assessment test that we had given for a number of years. And prior to that, it was the Iowa Test of Basic Skills and Iowa Test of Educational Development. We are going to do, at our next meeting, a board workshop on that, and bringing, I believe you are all able to come, I think 3:30. We'll have to get the time out there. I believe it's from 3:30 to 4:45 or till 5. Getting an opportunity for you to get your feet wet on the test and to learn more about that. I'm sure, Andrew, we would welcome you at that board workshop too. We'll get you a computer so you can also try a test. You have to let me know whether you want it to be a 4th grade test or a 10th grade test.
We can play Are You Smarter Than Andrew Wynn?
Are you smarter than Andrew Wynn? Yeah. So we will be doing that. It is a big deal, and we're really working to prep the staff. I was going to give accolades to Dr. Mohorn and her department. They have really worked hard to get ready. This is not a small change for us. This is a significant change. The fact that the test is all online, and the fact that every child has to be registered with a unique ID for each test, math, science, and the language arts. Every child has 3 times they have to log in. It is a significant, it's significantly new. And so I know they have worked really hard. I would give also, I think Dr. Mohorn would too, the accolades to Darren Hanna, has hours and hours and hours and hours getting ready for this. So looking forward to the opportunity to share some things with you on that. And parents, April 1st through April 31st, and your school for your child will be letting you know what days your child will be taking which test. And that's it. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I'm going to start down here to my right with Lyle this evening for board member comments.
I thought it was a good meeting. Covered a lot of ground tonight.
We did.
And particularly commendable to be presented a budget that again reduced the tax rate. So I think that was good.
Hear, hear. Rhonda?
Lyle kind of took mine a little bit, but to underscore what he said, I wanted to give a big shout out to Mike. Everybody knows that the whole budget thing is not something that I'm very fond of because I'm allergic to numbers. But I wanted to thank Mike for being a good steward with our taxpayers' monies, listening to our constituents while at the same time making sure that we deliver quality instruction. So thank you a lot for that, Mike. And also I want to thank the community for coming through to help us with our recent emergencies.
Absolutely. Sue?
Well, I have so many, but one thing I have to bring up is I attended the East High Variety Show, and I did not get the gentleman's name, but he is going to be like the leader of Def Leppard band. He was an awesome drummer. And he had hair, and he flipped it just like the cool musicians, and he was so talented. So I have to send Jodelle a email and get that young man's name, because he is definitely a rock star. And the whole program was just variety show. It ceases to amaze me that with the lack of time and planning they had with all the issues and the snow days, and that kick line kicked as good as they've ever kicked. I mean, they are good. But, and then as she said, Rhonda said, thanking everyone again, because I just think that it restores my faith in humanity. It just really does. And I appreciate that people have wrapped their arms around that. And then I would also like to thank our custodial staff. Lots and lots of snow. I live right by West High, and you can't even still see the school. And just where you put all that snow, and all the issues with the power outages, and Lowell, and our operations staff, including the IT, fixing all that up for Lowell. But just a tremendous job going above and beyond the call of duty. Marty's office, and all of our maintenance, and it's not grass cutting, but it's
important.
Snow removal, and it's just it's just awesome job. So it just takes a village to keep this district going.
Yes, it does.
And I appreciate everybody's hard work.
Thanks, Sue. India?
I don't have anything tonight. Thanks.
Alrighty. Well, the next regular scheduled board meeting for us is March 25th, right back here in this room. And as you heard, Andrew will be doing a work session before that, so you're more than welcome to come join us. And then next week is spring break for our kiddos, so just know that they're out and about. So without anything further to...
Oh, and that did remind me, though, for drivers in Waterloo, please watch around the schools, because those snow drifts, and so I notice that all the time, and you creep out, but a little kid just cannot see around those huge snow drifts. So just be extra cautious until that snow melts.
Slow down. It's going to go this week. A lot of it's going to go. So, all right. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn if there's nothing further for the board.
So moved.
Thank you, Sue. And a second, India. And all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 We are adjourned. Thank you and good night.
Nice meeting.
You were kind of quiet tonight.
I felt so bad. I couldn't help Aster out.
I need to get you more
He was
rest.
sitting here. He was like, I looked over
I've been ignoring you.
I thought
I
he
used to
was
jump on Bill pretty good.
he was just wincing, and then he texted me and said, "I'm gonna have to go."
Yeah.
And yeah. Oh, you had to wait that whole time? I'm so sorry. Oh, cool.
This is our Raiders team.
Nice.
Thank you. Part of our Raiders team, and so.
So what's the activities of this team? What do they do?
Raiders team is that the new Raiders, so it's a physical fitness type team. So you see, we got nice mix of.
Oh, I gotta go home. I'm so
things like
not feeling
horse
well.
race type stuff, runs.
Really?
Ugh.